the military is responsible for evacuating civilians out of a combat zone because of the politics behind it and him not being able to control the Department of Defense. He gave it to the State Department and treated the evacuation like an embassy, and it cost lives. That bomber that hit Navigate and killed 13 of our service members, that guy was someone that our military was forced by our White House to let out of prison a week before.
All right, guys, we got Chad Robichaux here today. A crazy story and a new book coming out. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Mission Without Borders. What's the premise of this book?
There's a couple angles for it. One is it's me and my son, who's a Marine as well, a combat vet. We have about 84 years of service in our family, so we both served in Afghanistan. I went to Afghanistan 8 times as part of a JSOC task force and special operations, and he went to Afghanistan 1 time. So we served in the same war, but now we are doing humanitarian work, and I had to make the decision to take my son into Russian invaded Ukraine in a war zone, or bench him like I did during the Afghan evacs when he was involved in. And so it's like the fear of control of being a father, to trusting him, trusting God, and making a decision to take my son into combat with me. And so that's really what the book's about. The backstory is all the humanitarian rescue operations we did in Ukraine. I went to Ukraine 10 times since the invasion. The big rescue was rescuing the Fox News reporter Benjamin Hall, recovering the bodies of some of his teammates, and then just 2 years of going there and helping people that can't help themselves. And one of the big things about the book is we keep it away from the geopolitics of it, because there's so many opinions about Ukraine.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot, and it's very confusing. For me, I don't agree with the hundreds of billions of dollars we're sending to Ukraine, because it's a corrupt cesspool. So I don't agree with that personally. So we got a lot of heat saying hey, why would you go there? Ukraine's corrupt. And my response is that every politician, Zelensky down the line from history has corruption.
Yeah.
But we can't let our calluses towards that keep us from our compassion for people. And in Ukraine, man, almost 1 million people have been killed because of this. Not politicians or not soldiers, like women, children, and so we're there to help people. Man. And I just won't let my political biases keep me from my compassion for people. And so that's a big part of what the book's about, is just good people standing up to do the right thing despite what governments do, and helping their fellow human in a time of need.
Wow.
God's given me the ability to have 14 years of special operations, 30 years around the military, and doing stuff like this and go and help these people.
Love it.
So that's what we did.
Can't believe there's already 1 million. It's only a year, right?
It's been February 24th of 2022. So,
so 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Damn, that's 1 million people. Is that more than Afghanistan?
Yeah. I mean, it's because you're not talking about Taliban, and you're talking about first world superpowers with ballistic missiles like telephone poles being shot into the side of apartment buildings. Going to a place like Kharkiv. When I went through Kharkiv, I remember driving in there pitch black. It's just eerie feeling, and it's felt apocalyptic. And one of the Ukrainians came over the radio and he said, "Hey, welcome to Kharkiv. The only thing that lives here is Will Smith and his dog." In the movie I Am Legend, right? And that's what it's like. It's just like this is soldier and soldier. And a lot of people talk about Ukraine could turn into World War III. From my position, and I've really dealt in national security, and I really understand this. It's 30 years of my life. This is World War III. It's a proxy. It's a kind of modern day proxy war, where you have in Ukraine, you have 30 countries there. You have the United States, the world superpower. Yep. You have Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, Ukraine itself. Like all these 30 countries are there fighting each other in this proxy war. So people will look at World War II. We're at D-Day today. It's kind of an honoring day at D-Day. But you look at World War II, and you look at people standing across the battle line from each other. This is 2024. Wars are fought differently, and these are proxy wars where you have U.S. equipment, U.S. dollars, China, Russia, Iran, all fighting each other. And so to me, being there in front line, this is a proxy World War III, and it's very dangerous that political leaders let this go on when, in fact, they could end it in 24 hours. This thing could be over in 24 hours if the leaders of our world would stand up and say, no, war crimes are being committed. We need to call up a humanitarian ceasefire and come and tend to these civilians that are being killed through war crimes.
Yeah.
And drawing a line in the sand. And that would be very easily done if the people that have the power to do it would have the courage to do it and desire to do it. A lot of them are making money off of this, and it's very profitable for people like President Zelensky and unfortunately people in our capital in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. How are they making money?
Well, I mean, you're talking about, again, hundreds of billions of dollars.
All right, guys, shout out to LinkedIn, today's sponsor. As a B2B marketer, you know how noisy the ad space can be. If your message isn't targeted to the right audience, it just disappears into the noise. Luckily, with LinkedIn ads, you can precisely reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. With LinkedIn's targeting capabilities, you can reach them by job title, industry, company, and more. Stand out with LinkedIn ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. LinkedIn ads allows you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. You'll have direct access and build relationships with decision makers. There's over 1 billion members on their platform, 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B. In technology, LinkedIn generated 2 to 5x higher return on ad spend than other social media platforms. You'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world you operate in. 79% of their content marketers said LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. Me personally, I've found some great podcast guests, and it's been an incredible platform for finding out new information. Start converting your B2B audience into high quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/social to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/social. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
Or I say hundreds, between 100 and 200 billion dollars that has been pumped there, and there's no congressional oversight.
Billion.
Holy yeah, so there's no congressional oversight. So this money goes there, and it goes in a black hole. You don't know what it's being spent on and how it's being spent. The country with some of the worst history of corruption in the world is Ukraine, and so President Zelensky is known for being part of this corruption, and that's who we're sending the money to.
Wow.
And so is there U.S. politicians that are getting money through the back end of this? Without throwing stones at any names, I would say certainly yes.
Yeah.
And those are it's our U.S. congressional members and people in our White House that are pulling the strings on this, and so those also happen to be the people that could end this.
Right.
And so you have a very, I think, serious conflict of interest
That is
without
weird,
the oversight.
man. And that money is our tax dollars, right?
It's our tax dollars. Yeah,
Holy
it's our
crap.
tax dollars, and it's not being used to fight a war. It's being used to allow innocent civilians. I mean, people look at Ukraine and it feels so distant from us, right? But when I drive through Ukraine and see pizza parlors and ice cream stores and schools and playgrounds with level to the ground places just like Uriah in this community, neighborhoods like we have here, Ukraine is a very civilized, I wouldn't say it's a pretty first world country. I mean, Kiev's a first world place, and to go through that and see that, I've been in wars. I've been to 60 countries. I've been in wars my whole adult life. I've spent 8 deployments to Afghanistan, so I've seen carnage in war. But for me, I've always seen it in places that are tribal, and to go into a place like Kharkiv and Kiev and see first world places. Like I say, you see a place that some kids had ice cream at last week.
Yeah.
That had a ballistic sized missile the size of a telephone pole flown in the side of it. For us to allow that in 2024 and not stop that is insane to me.
That's crazy.
We have the ability to stop it.
Damn.
Any politician that would say they don't have the ability to stop it is lying to you.
Yeah.
They do. There's a lot of incentive. The industrial war complex on both and the military industrial war complex to profiteer off of wars is real, and that's not a partisan statement, by the way. That's on the Republican side and Democrat side. People make money off of wars, and Afghanistan was pumping for 20 years. These people were, making money off of these major. You look at the political campaigns. Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, all these companies put money in these political campaigns for these people, and then now the people that lobbying should be illegal to me, but they lobby these politicians to get in office, and now that comes around, and these are the guys that make the decision to say, hey, we're going to continue in this war where there's contracts for billions of dollars to these companies or not, and it's and so there's a lot of benefit for war.
Afghanistan lasted 20 years?
20 years.
I didn't even know that. I thought it was
I said you got 2 generations. You got me and my son.
Holy crap.
I first went to Afghanistan when my son was, I first went to Afghanistan in 2003. My son was 7 years old, and then he ends up serving in Afghanistan. So, yeah.
You believe Afghanistan was a mistake?
I don't. I believe Iraq was a mistake.
Oh, Iraq.
I believe Iraq was a mistake. A lot of people kind of merge Iraq and Afghanistan because of the war on terror, but 2 very different things. I believe Afghanistan originally was the right intent. If we would believe that, there's lots of conspiracies around 9/11, but if we would believe that 9/11 wasn't attacked by Osama bin Laden on us, then it was justified to go and eradicate the Taliban from Afghanistan,
right?
And align with the Afghan people to fight for their oppression and freedom. And so that was a just war, and I participated in that in 8 deployments and special operations. And I, by the way, I lost 15 friends during those times. So it's a heavy cost for me. So for me to say that cost was worth it, I believe it was for not just America, for the world and our national security and the security of people around the world, including the Afghan people. And now I believe at some point during that 20 years, we should have declared the war on terror was a victory.
Right.
Probably President Trump should have declared that the war of victory, because he had a window that he could have. And then and I say that being someone that served as an advisor, as a national veterans policy advisor for President Trump, I do believe that it was a mistake that he didn't declare a victory. He should have declared a victory, and then we could have remained in Afghanistan just like we do around the world as a support to do a support and advisory role for the Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police, because that's actually what we're doing. The entire international community, in fact, is working together to support the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police. Because we didn't declare that, the American people were lied to by the media, by politicians, to say that we're in this 20-year war, this endless war, and that we need to radically pull out of Afghanistan. And then President Biden in 2021 made the decision to pull out of Afghanistan. This is the most strategic place in the globe between Iraq, Iran, Russia, and China. And to say that we had to pull out of this war when we had 2,500 troops there is insane. We still have 80,000 troops in Japan since World War II.
Holy crap.
40,000 troops in Germany.
I didn't
we
know
have
that.
35,000 troops in South Korea on that 38th parallel to keep the North Koreans from coming over. So having American troops in these places don't keep us in war. It actually prevents wars.
Wow.
And so to move 2,500 troops out of Afghanistan, to say it was, I can name 12 places right now that we have 2,500 troops around the world. So why Afghanistan? Because it benefited a lot of our enemies and a lot of political interests. China was the main beneficiary. When we moved out, they earned all the mineral rights in Hindu Kush Mountains, lithium, trillions of dollars, probably unlimited amount of dollars.
Damn.
They were able to move sanctioned oil from Iran into China. So there's a lot of reasons that the White House would have been pressured by foreign influence to move U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. And the cost of that was American lives, leaving our allies behind, giving up the most strategic place on the globe, and the cost of the 40 million Afghan civilians and 20 million women and little girls that are now sexually enslaved. And in this other book here, Saving Aziz, was when that happened. I made a decision to go back and get my interpreter, who's my friend of 8 deployments. We worked in a 2-man team together in special operations, and to go back and get him and his wife and 6 children. I put together a small special operations team to do that, and honestly, that led to just an absolute miracle that we were able to not only rescue him and his family, but we rescued 17,000 people.
Holy crap.
From there. And so this book actually is being made into a motion picture film.
That's incredible. So you went rogue. You assembled your own team and went back?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was rogue, but it's definitely kind of a fun way to say it. I mean, look, a lot of special operations veterans do humanitarian work around the world that the government won't do.
Right.
Either can't do or won't do. And we do everything. The reason I would say it's not rogue is because everything I do is coordinated through, and I still do things today. I've got operations going all over the world. When we do it, I communicate directly with Special Operations Command, Joint Special Operations Command, the Pentagon, to let them know what we're doing. Because last thing I want to do is somebody that did my job before is going on the same target as me, and we have a so we need to deconflict things.
Right.
So it's very much coordinated, but there's a humanitarian, not you have the government organization, which is the DoD and the Central Intelligence Agency, or government organizations, and you have NGOs, non-government organizations, which are nonprofits. And so I've stood up and led several nonprofits. Save Our Allies was this, and then a fourth option is another one that I do. The government has 3 options. The options are diplomacy, military action, covert action. A fourth option would be someone like me who's out working alongside the government to make these kind of rescues happen.
Nice.
And so that we work directly with the Joint Chiefs to get permission to go to Afghanistan, be in the airport. Now I had to get permission to bring people out of the country. I need another country to bring people to. I got the country of the United Arab Emirates, the royal family, worked with us.
Dubai?
Dubai, yeah.
Nice.
Amazing. The royal family was amazing to us, let us bring people to their humanitarian city. And they gave us permission to move people. Because if you move people from one country to the next without visas or permission, you're human trafficking people. So you have to have those permissions in place. Very complex and complicated. And then within 3 days, I realized that this could be I wouldn't have to raise money for like a couple $100,000, or it would be millions of dollars. And a man named Glenn Beck, who's like you, a radio show host, used his microphone to get on and ask for help, and he thought he'd raise a few $1,000s. Well, he ended up raising a total of $46 million.
Holy crap.
21 in 3 days, and he didn't know what to do with it, and he called me and knew I was involved, and I just raised all this money. What do I do with it? And I'm like, I know exactly what we did. We had charter planes, and those planes were like $800,000
Oh yeah,
average
flying
per
private
flight.
is expensive.
Yeah, so we yeah, and then we all that led to us moving 17,000 people out. In addition to that, myself and the second half of the book is myself and Dennis Price going into Tajikistan and swimming in Afghanistan every night for 10 days to help women and little
Swimming?
girls go. Yeah, the Panjshir River is the border.
Holy crap.
So you have the Taliban there, the Chinese military, the Russian military protecting that border, and we got all the women and children trying to get out of Afghanistan. They don't know how. I mean, Afghan women don't swim, right? Most of them never even been in a bathtub before, much less swim, and they either have a baby in their belly or a baby in their hands. That's just culturally. And now they have to cross the Panjshir River, which is like 25,000 foot mountain peaks, a whitewater rapid river that's freezing cold. And then you got Taliban, Chinese, China military there. You got the Russian military, the Tajikistan border guard there. They don't know how to cross or where to cross. So we spent 10 days in there going in and assessing routes, building routes, and putting plans together to get these women and children across.
Incredible.
And that's kind of how the book ends.
What a
on
story. Because you went to Afghanistan to fight, and you end up saving the locals and 17,000 bucks.
I mean, my heart when I went to Afghanistan to fight, it was to fight the Taliban, not the Afghan people. In fact, my heart after one deployment there was probably more focused on the oppression of Afghan people than it was for the national security of the United States. I fell in love with these people, the culture, and really had a burdened heart for what they experienced, especially the grotesque like sexual molestation of children by the Taliban and the things like that, and the oppression of these women. And so I was very proud that my time in Afghanistan was helping to little girls go to become doctors and teachers and whoever they want to be, and being part of giving that to the Afghan people for 20 years. It's a shame that that's going away now, and so I wanted to help get as many of them out of there as I can, and I'm still working on it now. So we had it didn't stop at 17,000 people. That was 3 years ago now, and I'm still working on getting as many people.
So it's still like that over there right now. Oh, Taliban's still running it, or
Taliban's running it. China has our probably $80 billion in U.S. equipment that we left behind.
Holy crap!
I still know that there's U.S. Americans that are still left behind there.
They didn't evacuate all 2,500.
No, well, that was 2,500 troops, but you were talking thousands of Americans, probably 20,000 Americans that we left behind. We evacuated. We closed our military base, and we evacuated our military before we evacuated our civilians. And we closed our military air base and moved to a civilian air extract through the Afghan local airport. It was insane. It was handled. And so there was no plan in place to evacuate our Americans. So Americans were left behind.
Oh my gosh!
And which is unacceptable under any administration, by the way. I don't know your audience.
Was that under Trump or Biden?
That was under President Biden.
Okay.
Yeah. I said I don't know your base and how they lane.
It's heavy, right?
Yeah. I'll say it. To me, it doesn't matter. Like I mean, it wouldn't matter who's in office. That you just don't do that. Now President Trump. A lot of people kind of nail President Trump and say, well, President Trump initiated the Doha Agreement, which is the agreement with the Taliban. But look, President Trump would have never forfeited Bagram Air Force Base. He would have handed it over to the international community, and he would have not allowed the Taliban to take over in the way they did. It was set up in a different way. President Biden completely forfeited everything, and he took the NEO operation, which is non-combatant evacuation operation, away from our military and gave it to the State Department, which is. It's very complex to get into what that means, but what that means is the military is responsible for evacuating civilians out of a combat zone. That's what they do, not the State Department. Because of the politics behind it and him not being able to control the Department of Defense, he gave it to the State Department, and Secretary Blinken treated the evacuation like an embassy, and it cost lives, including cost 13 of our service members' lives at Abbey that bomber that hit Abbey and killed 13 of our service members, 170 civilians, and injured 100 more. That guy was someone that our military was forced by our White House to let out of prison a week before. Yeah,
and so he ended up being a bomber.
He ended up being a bomber. We knew that. Anybody would have knew that. This is guys a combatant that we arrested and we let him go before our people were out. Right.
Oh my gosh!
And they hid that for 3 years. It just came out. They hid it.
Oh, it just came out.
They hid it for 3 years.
So there was a lot of bombers in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things that one of the strategies Taliban do is they take these young boys that are usually uneducated and they manipulate them into believing They're doing it for their family. They're doing it for God.
Wow.
And
I thought that was Japanese. I didn't know they were doing it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's in Afghanistan, it's horrific. It's horrific to fight something like that. To know that you could be standing anywhere and somebody could just walk up to you and clack off a vest. And
that's nuts. And you don't even see it because they're probably wearing stuff over.
Yeah, if you're in a crowded city, they're gonna dress like they get under burqa, look like a woman. And so they have a vest underneath it. And
holy
that's
crap!
The things our troops faced. And
how big is the radius on those?
it depends, but usually like just vest if you're within 50 yards of a vest, like everybody in that.
Damn, 50 yards. That's pretty big. That's half a football field.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible, man.
Yeah, you're gonna either be killed or seriously injured if you're 50 yards of.
You were with your son in Afghanistan, or was that Ukraine?
It was Ukraine.
Oh,
it was Ukraine. My son was involved in the Afghan evacs, but we kept him in Dubai.
Got it.
And so that was kind of a build-up, right? We kept him in Dubai.
You wanted him safe in Dubai.
Him safe, yeah. And he's like, hey, I had an interpreter too. I was in Afghanistan. I'm like, yeah, great, you're part of it. And then we get into Ukraine, and he's participating. He's highly valuable because he's so good with like some of the communications and tech stuff because he's like young. He's 28 years old, and he's in so he's like proving his worth to the team. And we did a rescue of Benjamin Hall, the Fox News reporter, when he was catastrophically wounded, and they were like, the Pentagon actually asked us to go get him because the U.S. military is not allowed in Ukraine, and including all of our Tier 1 special operations units and the CIA. The White House not allowed them to go to Ukraine. So we're like, hey, we're all sitting in a safe house in Krakow, Poland. We had just got all of our assets in place to be able to go anywhere we needed to in Ukraine. Like literally, like within 2 hours, we had the capability. And Seaspray, who's a good buddy of mine, he kind of was running our operations there. He got a phone call, and we were all just having fun in the house, talking and eating. And he's like, you could tell us on a serious call. He put his hand up for everybody to be quiet. And then when he got off the phone, he's like, hey, Fox News reporter Benjamin Hall and his team were just hit in Kiev. Russia was trying to take Kiev at that time. So Kiev, we thought, was going to fall. And his team was killed. Pierre is his 25-year cameraman of Fox News, Sasha, the Ukrainian correspondent. Damn. The security team was all killed. And like Benjamin Hall's alive. They don't know how long he's going to live, but he has a wife and 2 little girls at home. And if we don't go get him right now, no one is, and he's going to die. Like, who's in? And everybody in the house raised their hand.
Holy crap.
Including my son. And so there was 9 of us in the house, including, by the way, all special operations guys except one guy, Adam LaRoche, who's a baseball player. He just happened to be in the house, like coming to meet us for dinner, and so we drug him out with us.
Oh, you brought him?
We brought him with us. Yeah, we're like, hey, we need everybody we can. But my son and another guy were the ones that were chosen to stay back and run our operation. Because you got to have somebody back on the back end monitoring our movement and all the intelligence and coordinating stuff. So he got benched on that Benjamin Hall rescue, and he was pretty sour about it. I don't blame him. And we rescued Benjamin Hall, got him to the U.S. military, and then we went back and recovered Pierre's body. I actually drove Pierre's body out himself, myself. We weren't going to go back because we thought Kiev was falling. We weren't going to go back and get a body.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to put the team in that jeopardy. But then Pierre's wife came into Poland and was like, "I want to see my husband." And we were like, "Yes, ma'am. We're going to go get him." And so I drove his body out. And that point after that operation, I could tell my son was like really struggling, and I really just had this dilemma that I had to make a decision. Like, am I going to allow my fear, my control as a father, keep my son from doing things that I believe that God has burdened his heart to do? And that was a real dilemma because I want to protect him, I want to keep him safe. He's my son. Like, yeah, he's 20-something years old. He's a combat veteran. He's got experience. He's really good at what he does. But, I have a responsibility to protect him. And I came to this conclusion through mentorship and wisdom of other people that, man, I love my son, but God loves him way more than me. I can protect my son, but God can protect him more than I ever can, whether he's on his couch in Houston or in a war zone in Russia. And, I should never be someone that blockades the burdens of someone's heart to do what they want to do for others, and even if it's my son. And because I know my heart's always been that way. Like, if I want to go help somebody and do something, I feel like those doors are open to do it, I'm going to go do it. I didn't want to be that blockade for him, so I had to make a decision to let him participate. And so the first trip he and I drove across the border in Ukraine and went do operation. The 2 of us, it was kind of low level, just to me to like
a test.
It's more for me. It was more for me than for him, And then I was like, you know what, I'm good. And every time he's went out, and the book starts, if you read the prologue of the book starts in a pretty dark place. Like, I'm in his Zoom, And me and Seaspray are going. We went to identify some mass graves and rescue a Marine that was a U.S. Marine that went volunteer with the Ukrainians. He'd been shot and captured. So we're going. Me and Seaspray are going to do that, and we get caught in this town called Izum. The Russians had for 6 months, and the Ukrainians just liberated it. So we went in there, and then the Russians closed the line behind us, and so we're caught in this major battle, uniform on uniform. High tech.
Damn.
Weaponry and high-tech weaponry, MiGs flying over us, dropping bombs on Ukrainian soldiers. They're shooting, bombs are hitting, IDF, indirect fires hitting within 100 yards of us.
Jeez.
It's pretty chaotic. Probably some of the most chaotic things I've ever seen. And 2 hours away from us in a town called Bakhmut, my son Hunter is delivering supplies to Ukrainian troops, and they get hit.
Wow.
So simultaneously, I'm on the radio with him, and I'm like, "Hey, we're taking indirect fire," and I can hear on the other side his. That's kind of how we started
Holy
the book
crap.
off. And then it kind of goes back to how do we get there? How do we get to where we're both at the same time, 2 hours away from each other, 2 hours behind Russian lines, in this scenario, and so the book really shares that journey.
That's pretty nuts, man. When he first told you he wanted to join the military, what was your reaction?
My family has 84 years of service. World War II. I'm told now. My son's going back in the Ancestry.com. So I'm told World War I, but World War II, Korea. My father was the first Marine in our family as an infantryman in Vietnam, and then I went in Marine Special Operations and did 8 deployments to Afghanistan. So he grew up around special operations guys. From the task force, I was on a lot of SEALs and recon Marines. He grew up around that, and he's always been. He's a wrestler and he's an athlete his whole life, and I'm a big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. I'm a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and did 20 professional MMA fights. So he's been around that kind of lifestyle, and so it was no surprise that he had always wanted to do it, that he would join the Marines at 17, just like I did, and my dad did too. And so when he did, I was super excited for him. I helped him pick the job he would do because I kind of knowing him what I thought would fit best, and we had picked Anglico, which is an air naval gunfire liaison company. Work with a lot of foreign militaries and in bed with them. And when he went to Afghanistan, he didn't go as like a traditional U.S. military unit. His little 4-man Anglico team was embedded with the country of Georgia, their infantry. Yeah. And so to call in U.S. air support for them. That was his job. And so I was super excited. But when he went to Afghanistan, then it hit me. The reality of it hit me. Knowing I buried friends there and knowing that environment and knowing my son could be. So I really had a struggle, big struggle, and I talk about a lot in this book, when he was in Afghanistan, deployed. He came home, and I'm like, my son's home, safe, that's it. Never have to deal with that again. And then he pursues the path I'm on in the humanitarian side of things.
Yeah.
And so I did have to deal with it again. And
cool.
a lot more close to home, but being on my team and coming out on operations that I had control over. And so, it's a very unique environment. Hopefully not let fathers have to deal with that. But whether you deal with that in combat or life, I think as fathers or people that have loved ones, right? You don't have to just be a father over a son. Like people that have loved ones, you always want to control, as in most men do, we want to control people's lives. We want to keep people safe, that people care about safe. Right. And sometimes it becomes, there's a line that we cross and we allow fear and control to cross a line and interfere with people's success and ultimately, their giftings and talents and things they're called to do.
Yeah. You said the weapons in Ukraine were very advanced. How does the style of combat differ from Afghanistan?
Well, in Afghanistan, you're dealing with old Russian AK-47s and RPGs, and thing that scared me worse was a PKM, which is a heavy machine gun, a 7.62 caliber machine gun mounted on top of a truck or something like that. That's the kind of things that I worried about most in Afghanistan. Yeah, IED, improvised explosion device buried in a road or in a vehicle being driven into you. Now you go into Ukraine and you got a MiG. They have air superiority everywhere in Afghanistan. We had air superiority. We had the air. Oh, okay. Now you got a MiG fighter jet flying over you, dropping bombs.
Holy crap!
You have a ballistic missile flying from a couple of 100 miles away. Like I said, the size of a telephone pole, flying in the side of a building.
You witnessed that?
Yeah, everywhere. I got tons of videos I can show you. It's insane. So this isn't. You're not talking about the Taliban. You're talking about first world, ballistic missiles. Modern day at the highest level of warfare. Yeah. And
do you see drone strikes?
Drone strikes. On both sides, by the way. So it's not just like the Russians. Now you have Ukrainian fighting back with it. Wow. So this is high tech country on country warfare. Afghan. We never. A lot of people get confused that aren't really familiar with warfare. United States didn't fight at least at the end of it, and fighting Iraq. They were fighting insurgents. The United States wasn't fighting Afghanistan. We were fighting the Taliban, a tribal terrorist organization.
Right.
So they have some sophistication, some modern warfare. In Iraq, you have Iran, Iran by proxy fighting with it as insurgents there. But you're not fighting you're fighting the Russian military.
Yeah. The stakes are higher.
It's different. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is nuts. Yeah. It pretty much sounds like World War III. They just won't admit it on.
No,
on the media.
by proxy. It is. No one wants to admit that, but that's what we're really facing right now.
Do you see it bleeding over to other countries, or?
I mean, man, look, you go into Poland and they're terrified. They are the border of the United Nations, and if Ukraine falls, now the border is Poland. And look what quick. It seems like a long time ago to you and I, especially your age and your generation, but it wasn't that long ago that Poland experienced that in World War II, and the Germans invaded Poland, and so people there remember that.
Yeah,
and people there relate to that. So I remember sitting down and this lady's talking to me, and she knew us from America, and this older lady, and she's like, if Ukraine falls, America's not there helping Ukraine. If Ukraine falls, will America help us in Poland to keep? Because Putin won't stop. I mean, there has to be
more.
He'll always want more. I mean, that's what narcissists, evil narcissistic leaders do. And look, people see Putin and they're like, there's a lot of appealing qualities to him. I mean, he's for the type of personality I am. He's a pretty appealing guy. He's a strong leader. He's not gonna take crap from anyone. No, Monsanto and controlling seeds won't be there. He won't allow fast food. He won't allow people to there's some things, but he is an evil human being who doesn't care about human life.
Wow.
And he wants power, and he's narcissistic. He wants power, and he will destroy anyone and anything to get power.
Damn.
And he has to be stopped. Now, I'm not saying that the United States should go to war with Russia. What I'm saying is the United States, as a leader of the free world, demands the UN to call a humanitarian ceasefire, ends the war in Ukraine based on very valid things. President Biden at any moment could say, it's enough. Like, you're using ballistic missiles against civilians, using chemical weapons, and I could validate that. By
Chemical?
the way, personally, yeah, I could personally validate chemical weepons on civilians.
How does that work? It's like a gas, or?
Yeah, like a gas, like a nerve agent or something like
Damn.
that. Tons on civilians, it's not even allowed to be used in the military, by the way.
Wow.
But especially not on civilians, right? So there's mass graves that I personally have not only witnessed but went there to witness mass, because we don't want to trust the Ukrainians because they're getting a lot of money. So if the Ukrainians says mass graves, and we don't want to take their word for it. So I've went and personally documented mass graves. There's enough evidence for the President of the United States and the UN to say, or NATO, NATO, to say there needs to be a humanitarian ceasefire. We have to draw a line somewhere, and there will be no more fighting. And the United Nations and NATO are going to come in and care for these women and children who are not combatants. And when that would be established, Putin would, somewhere in the eastern front of Ukraine, would be a line that would be drawn in the sand. And as long as that NATO force that was there, which should include the United States, not going there to fight to do the humanitarian aid, that NATO force should be there, that prevents Putin from coming across whatever that line is. The reason why is this thing called Article 5, and Article 5 is something that Putin will never want to violate. He's crazy, he's insane, and he's evil, but he's not stupid.
What's Article 5?
And Article 5 means that if you even indiscriminately wound a NATO soldier especially in this humanitarian, it is an act of war from the entire United Nations has to act.
Whoa.
Is obligated to act against that oppressor.
So that would wipe them out.
The whole world would be obligated to respond. When I say the whole world, the United Nations world, the whole world would be obligated to respond to Russia.
Yeah. Well, UN's all the biggest countries, though. So
right, exactly. So Putin would know not to do that. So that's when I say this could be over in 24 hours. And you have heard President Trump have said that before as well. And people think he's,
he wants to end it.
He thinks that people think he's being egotistical by saying that. But no, he's saying that based on, I would assume the same premise that I'm saying, like humanitarian ceasefire.
Yeah. He wants to end the Israel one too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, look, everybody called him a warmonger. Everybody said he was going to start World War III. He's the only president in the last, in my lifetime that has been in the presidency that has not started any wars.
Wow.
The only president.
That's great. Your whole lifetime.
My whole lifetime.
Damn.
I mean, both Bushes, Obama,
Yeah.
Biden now.
Yeah, that's 20 years right there, right?
Yeah, both Bushes. We're talking 30 years.
Oh, 8 each, yeah.
Yeah, Clinton, right? Bill Clinton. So all these presidents have started wars. President Trump's the only one that hasn't. So if people call him a warmonger, you can not like him, right? But let's just get the facts are there, right? You call him whatever you want. He's the only president that has not started another war, and in fact has de-escalated or ended wars, obliterated ISIS, shut down the Taliban. During his time, ISIS and the Taliban were done. It didn't reignite until he left office.
Wow. Which is crazy because everyone thought he would start wars.
No, he
was the only one who did it.
He's the only one who did it.
It's
Yeah,
ironic,
so you could
right?
not like him if you want, but you could also look at the facts. You could put the whatever bias you have towards him aside and just look at the facts, and it's there.
Yeah.
You can't debate it.
You can't.
It's not debate.
And that's why you got to be careful with the media and how it portrays certain people, and they try to vilify certain people as well.
Sure. Yeah, because unfortunately, most of our mainstream, not most, probably all of our mainstream media is bought and paid for by the World Economic Forum and globalists who want to destroy America. They have to take America out. America has to be gone.
Why do they want that?
What's that?
Why do they want to destroy America, you think?
Well, I mean, in order for globalism to exist and a one world government to exist, the last standing thing against that is America.
Wow.
And so you have to destroy America to do that. And that's why would George Soros, why would people outside the United States be investing billions of dollars into controlling the education system in the universities in America? Why would people from outside our country care about who's in our Supreme Courts? Why would they care about who's in our White House?
Right.
Why would they care about what's said on American media? Because it's all a very deliberate attempt to destroy this country, because this country stands in the way of a one world government. And that sounds like crazy conspiracy theory, but
no, it's not. If you look into it,
put your biases and opinions aside and just don't trust me, but please don't trust me. Definitely don't trust the mainstream media. Just research for yourself. This stuff is pretty easy.
No,
to
it's
find
super
if you
easy.
just research yourself. I mean,
there's great podcasts exposing it, like Sean Ryan, a few others.
Yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about this stuff on my podcast and on the Roseanne show, and I was just on Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan's a great voice in it. But that's why I love like shows like this and podcasts. Podcasts are so important because no one's controlling what you say.
Yeah, no sponsors, no platforms.
Yep.
I'm on my own, and dude, the World Economic Forum came to one of my events and tried recruiting me.
Yeah.
Scary, right? And if I wasn't educated,
yeah,
I would have probably taken it. But because I knew about it, I was like, what the hell? This is weird.
Well, they have an endless pot of money. And
they all flew out, like 8 guys, to my event in Vegas. And I was like, this is crazy.
You're a prime target. Your age, your voice, your platform. I mean, that's who they're going to go after.
Yeah.
Because they want your voice.
They offered to fly me out and all the to like some random place. It was weird, dude.
Yeah, probably some island.
Yeah, Epstein Island.
Yeah, some little kids or something.
Yeah, it's scary, man.
Figure out what your flavor is and then compromise you. And this has happened. I mean, we joke about it right now, but it's happened to a lot of people. Like they've been compromised, and once they're compromised, they own
a lot of celebrities, right?
You have celebrities and people with voices and people in political positions, and they, I
think I'm good because they'll never be able to sway me with money. But if they start doing threats, then I'm gonna have to call you up and get you to help me out.
I got me and a bunch of my friends.
Yeah. No, it's sad though. You see a lot of these big people selling their souls or selling out for money, and then pushing agendas they don't care about. Like a good example is The Rock right now. I mean, he you could see he kind of regrets it.
Yeah, because he did. He kind of he during the last election he was
Democrat heavy.
He got behind Biden and Kamala, and I think he's a great human. And I think he loves America, and I don't know why he did it, but I think
money probably
he's
right?
regretting it now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could just see him on Rogan. Just every answer was like a bot answer.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't give his own opinion.
No, and that happens to so many people. I think they just get they get sucked in and they jump on these kind of mainstream biases without really educating themselves on what's underneath it. It's so easy to hate President Trump because of everything you've heard.
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah, but they give some. It's like, no, there's no but, man. This guy, look, is he kind of an egotistical maniac dude? Of course he is. He's been a billionaire for a long time, and he's been in power. And I mean, most people that have been billionaires are a bit narcissistic a little bit, right? But he loves America. You can't argue that the man loves his country. And he's not part of the political system. And that's why they hate him.
Right.
He's not part of the political system. He's not part of the agenda. And he's not going to play by the rules. And he cares more about the people than he does about the government. And people have lost that. People have lost the fact that these elected politicians are not leaders. We call them leaders. They're not leaders. They're the constituents send them to represent. They're representatives. They represent the people.
Yeah.
And this government was established to represent the people. And it's, for the people, by the people. And people have forgot that. President Biden, Donald Trump, George Bush, Bill Clinton, whoever's in that office, he's not in control of us or in charge of us. They're there to work for us and represent us. And if people could just get back to that, then they would understand someone like President Trump, who's there to like stand in the gap for
100%. But there was just so much programming. Some people are just too far gone.
Yeah, I mean, they were, and they did a really good job at it. It made him easy to hate.
They got a lot of my friends at first, but then people started realizing, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, it's programmed.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the government agencies turning on him as someone who's probably worked with some of these agencies?
Man, that's probably the most heartbreaking thing for me because, most of my life has been in service, from 17 years old till now. I'm 48 years old now.
Yeah.
So 31 years of my life has been in service to our government, our country, and to see some of these institutions that I have grown up respecting, including the Department of Defense and Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, that I've grown up respecting them and trusting my life and the lives of my friends with them, and trusting the lives of my people, the American people, with them. That not only has it been compromised, but it's been weaponized politically and weaponized against the American people.
Wow.
And that's terrifying to me. And I mean that in a way that's like, I haven't been able to reconcile that. It's terrifying to me.
Damn.
And it's really saddens me because I've had friends that have given their lives voluntarily, sacrificed their lives for this country and believing in the government institutions of this country. And political leaders that have self agendas and agendas that aren't in the best interest of the United States have compromised. And what I believe and I hope if President Trump gets back in office, that he will clean house in these organizations. And some of these organizations unfortunately probably have to go.
Wow.
And be completely gutted from the bottom up. It's that bad.
That's what Vivek said. He wants the FBI gone, CIA gone, all that, right?
It's that bad that it has to be from the bottom up, gutted. Now, I mean, look, I have a lot of friends that serve in the FBI.
Yeah.
And the bottom half of the FBI is patriotic men and women who love our country and want to do the right thing for our country. Somewhere in that upper 50%, I don't know where that line is, there's a shift to the people that lead the organization that have been compromised, all on one side by the left. And so if you're in the left or right and you're listening to this, like in Democrat or Republican, if you look at something like that unbiasedly and say, if everybody is compromising to one side, then that side's probably inherently bad.
That's strange. Yeah,
right?
I did not know that.
If you have people compromising some people compromise and they're playing political favors to the right, and some people compromise and playing political favors to the left, that's just real world. That makes sense, right? You're going to have people that do that. But when all the compromise is to one side, that should be terrifying for any side. And you should realize that side's probably bad.
Well, the money's probably better on that side because they're in bed with big companies.
Sure, yeah.
All the big companies that run the country.
All
big pharma.
All big globalist countries, too.
Yeah, big globalist countries.
Yeah. I mean, big globalist companies that are like in the George Soros.
Yeah. So I wonder what the fix is, though, because you're not going to be able to fix human greed. That's just nature.
No, you're not. You're not.
So I don't know if it's even fixable, right? Like,
I don't. The big question for me, the kind of litmus test if we even have a country anymore and we having America the way that I grew up knowing America to be, is this next election. Because I think anybody in their right mind, any sane human being will say there is no possible way. You could hate Donald Trump and you could be a complete liberal on the left and believe all the left policies and still rationally understand that Donald Trump wins this election in a free and fair election.
Yeah. There's
no way that President Biden has a chance to beat this man in a free and fair election.
If he wins, I'll be shocked.
Yeah, so that's the litmus test, right? If he wins, then we know that America does not have electorate vote anymore,
right?
And we've lost a voice to choose our leaders, and what happens with that? Who knows, man? These are the kind of things that literally start a civil war and rebellion. These are the kind of things. I mean, that really. I mean, January 6th to me is orchestrated and insane. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like people really rising up or conceding, which is sad. But if they concede, then we just don't have a free America. I don't think America goes away.
Yeah.
I think it becomes Europe. And
we might have some states leave if he wins again.
Yeah, we could. And that's very people get excited about that. Oh, like people love change. So people are like, oh yeah, I live in Texas. So people are like, it'd be awesome if we succeed. There's a lot of implications to that. Like we don't want, it's like a good marriage that's been around. Like I've been married 30 years. Like, and people have been around marriages 30 years. Like, oh, it'd be great to, start over with someone new or something like that. Sounds good. The amount of damage that comes from that is not good. Yeah. And so if states start succeeding and stuff like that, it sounds real appealing and sexy to people, but man, there's so much damage that comes with that.
Absolutely.
We want to stay united. We want the United States to stay together. And but I believe that hinges on the American people knowing that they still have a voice. When American people believe they don't have a voice anymore, and they got a taste of it this last election, most rational Americans know that there was a lot of election fraud and mail-in ballots and stuff like that, and don't believe that was a free and fair election and a legitimate outcome. And but if that happens again this time, with the way the scales are tipped this time, with the election interference, with the New York court system and convicting Donald Trump on these felonies in the middle of an election, and I don't know how America responds. They're either going to rebel or completely concede, and either one of those are terrible for the country.
Yeah, I feel like this is the most pivotal election of all time.
It is, yeah. Everybody says it every election. This is the most important election of all time, but this really is. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's the determination if we have a free and fair election system in a country, and that determines if we have a country.
Yeah, because
as we know
if he wins again, that could mean that other elections have been compromised in the past.
And we know they have, but at what point? I mean, look, they're trying everything to take him out.
Yeah,
this is not a coincidental circumstance, the conviction.
Yeah, legally, probably physically, who knows?
He'll win an appeal, but it doesn't matter if he wins this in an appeal because it's in the middle of an election.
Right.
But I mean, his poll numbers are going up. I don't know if you know, like
he's at like 56, right?
Yeah,
56%.
Yeah, and that's definitely flawed polls.
Yeah.
But even with that, he's still at 56. I'd say he's probably like 90%.
Probably.
I mean,
I've only met one Biden supporter my whole life.
Yeah. So I mean, how the American people responded when he got the announcement that he got convicted of a felony. They had 360 million come in the GOP website.
I saw that. That's crazy.
And it shut down. The website crashed.
It helped him.
Yeah, it helped him. So.
That's funny. Chad, it's been fun. Where can people find more about you, your books? I know you got a film coming up.
Yeah, I mean, everything for me, ChadRobichaux.com. My foundation, if people are interested in the foundation that I founded, Mighty Oaks Foundation, MightyOaksPrograms.org. All my books are available anywhere books are sold. Man, anybody that loves to support veteran authors or authors in general, pre-sales on books are always, this comes out August 13th, but pre-sales always help us.
Cool.
So you can pre-order a copy of Mission Without Borders. And if you just stay tuned on my Instagram, follow my podcast, The Resilient Show.
Boom.
YouTube, you can subscribe, but we'll keep you informed when the movie comes out.
Cool. Link it all below.
Yeah. And I can't say who wrote it, or I could just say the people that made Terminal List or in charge of making this movie.
Nice. Can't wait to see it, man.
So if you like Terminal List, you love it, which is a series, is being a big screen. So
perfect. Stay tuned, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.